Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to today's Daily Peek. Ow. My name is Soul. I am eating jerky. End of statement. I got a text a little earlier this morning that said that my meds are ready for pickup. So I need to do that sometime today, and that's my only notable plan. But yeah, I'm excited to have fewer intrusive thoughts. But before I do anything today, I need to take my meds, and I will be doing that with a Lust and Found Energy Blue Rush flavored energy drink. Oh. One of the pills was in my mouth for just a little bit too long, and it started to dissolve. So there was like bitter sand in my mouth for a second. Oh, I'm still getting some aftertaste from it. That's awful. That's truly bad. Oh. Anyway. I'm gonna go ahead and start up the game. And take my vitamins. Almost forgot. I'm working on the vitamins. I love video game. What the fuck am I talking about? I am a little tired. I'm not even tired in an interesting way. I'm just like, I'm a few ticks less functional. And that's it. Like, it's not even making my voice cute or anything. I'm just like, my brain is a little like, I don't feel like talking today. So this might be a quiet one. Just because I'm vibing, I guess. Because I'm tired, because life. Saw the fireworks show at Virality yesterday, though. That was good. Some good shit. Love the fireworks show. Notably, I did almost cry because Virality is very good at manipulating your emotions. The Virality staff really enjoy just putting you on the brink of tears whenever possible. Because they did the whole fireworks show thing, and it was so pretty. And it, like, the whole theme of the con this year was, retro and arcade gaming, with the core, like, plot point being that, oh yeah, Virality Ultra is, like, in-world, a get-together to celebrate the life of the Ultravox Prism or whatever. Ultravox Prism? Because the servers that the thing runs on are about to shut down. And it's like an N64 or earlier console. You know, and it's really back there. So a lot of the worlds were, you know, very much inspired by, like, retro gaming and all that. And the fireworks show, no different. It cut to a lot of stuff about, like, cut to. It was fireworks and it was drones. And they did a lot of really fun visual effects based on all the games. They had like a little racing game bit, and the drones moved around to make it look like the car and racetrack were moving. And it was like first-person perspective, like you were playing the game. Spaceship one, like a Guitar Hero rhythm game type. Just a lot of fun references to classic games. And like the culmination point of the show was this like giant pillar of aurora-like light. And you kind of start to realize that it is, like, representative of, you know, like, a connection to the internet. Like, it is representative of not just, like, the internet itself, like, the wires, the machines, but the culture of it, the connections that you make to other people via this. And it's like, oh, this is such a fun feeling of, like, unity and shit. This is, like, togetherness. I'm sitting here watching this show with a ton of other people. We're all sat here enjoying it together, you know? But the conceit of the con is everyone's coming together to celebrate the end of something. And and as this like final beautiful segment of the show is going, it starts to die out, and the drones spell out a message in the sky. Thank you for playing. Like the game itself is talking to you. Like the world itself wants to thank you for being there. And as this giant connection is slowly dying out, it swaps to a the thanks for playing changes to the connections start dying out, and it's just a no network symbol. And the only reason I didn't cry in the moment was because I was actively suppressing it because I was wearing a headset. Because I'm crying now just going over it. I love art. All of this, the everything, is such a unique ability to impact you, you know? It's like the Prism was never a real console. Like we all know this. But through the medium of Morality Ultra, um you get to feel that sense of community, and the angle of the prism makes the world itself feel like a character, you know? It wants to keep going just as much as you want it to, but it knows it can't live forever. And just like with this fireworks show, you know? It's trying for a beautiful send-off. Because it knows it can't last forever, but it wants to thank you for being there. And, yeah. And the world said, I love you. Because you are love. It was really nice. I liked the fireworks show a lot. I need to get back on those meds. I am so So swingy. So, ugh. I'm just I'm a silly little artist. You know? And I'm really glad to be able to look at these things and experience these things, and I can bring something to it. I like being able to analyze art. It makes me feel like a part of it. The wider performance of it. Because art isn't just the thing on the canvas, you know? Or whatever the medium you have chosen is. It doesn't have to be canvas. It's not just that, it's the emotions it inspires in you. It's the choice of materials, the method by which it's displayed. It's the reactions it invokes in you. Because the art isn't just the art. I don't know if a painting is still art if it's locked away. You know? Because a big part of the art is how the people who see it are affected by it. What it does to you is part of the art. On some level, that authorial intent, but also how that can be changed by exactly how you perceive, you know? By the experiences you're bringing to it. It's the action, the reaction, the reaction to the reaction. Not just the work itself, but the medium it's in, the choice of materials, the techniques used. The place in which it's displayed can say quite a bit. Sorry, my brain's going back to Dadaist art. If anyone's familiar with the period. You know, the urinal and all that. Where there was like a lot of commentary about like, is this art, you know? A lot of these very like postmodern pieces with very abstract forms or ridiculous forms, you know, someone bringing in a signed urinal. It's just, yep, this is my piece. Where it's like, it's not just the urinal that is the art there, you know? It's part of it. It's an important part of it. because it's a receptacle for waste that is being displayed alongside high art, and the piece is supposed to make you question, like, what is this? Why is this happening? Why am I looking at a toilet in an art gallery? You know? And it's not because the toilet itself is a beautiful work of art. It is. It can be. But it's not just because of that. It's because a big artist was like, hey, I would like to submit this piece of art. And someone else had to approve it. And a lot of stuff happened for it to get to the point where you're looking at it in the middle of a gallery surrounded by, like, beautiful paintings. And it becomes a commentary on that entire system, you know? The system that allowed a urinal to be placed in an art gallery. It's all art. It's all beautiful. It's all saying something. That's one of my favorite parts about the nature of art and analysis, is that, like, the art, you have as much of a voice in your reaction to the art as the art is able to speak to you, you know? Those two things are equally weighted to some extent. I was talking about this with a friend the other day when it comes to Who's Afraid of Red, Yellow, and Blue. If anyone is familiar with the series by someone Newman. I just remembered the last name, because it's not a particularly difficult last name. But Newman created these, like, giant paintings, which were huge blocks of solid color. One of the most notable being, it was a series of 4 paintings. Who's Afraid of Red, Yellow, and Blue 3 was one of the, like, more notable ones. It went up on display in a art museum. And it was immediately the target of ridicule by conservative politicians. Because they were like, what is this? This isn't art. Because the conservative conception of what art is solely views the work itself as the entirety of the art. The feelings it stirs in you are not part of the art. It's just the work. The thing that you are supposed to be impressed by is the detail of it, how accurately it can represent life. So you have that conservative perspective clashing with Who's Afraid of Red, Yellow, and Blue, and seeing, you know, giant canvases, something like 10 by 30 feet, 30 by 10 feet, 30 by 10, I think. Length and no, height and width would be 10 by 30, I think. I'm bad at measurements, but these gargantuan canvases of solid color. And they're like, what do you mean this is high art? I could do this with a paint roller, you know? And that is true to some extent. But there is a big asterisk there. because we actually do see like an attempt, basically. One of the most notable parts about Who's Afraid of Red, Yellow, and Blue is the fact that, at least the third in the series, um, is that someone murders this painting. I don't remember the name of the guy. One of the many conservatives who was aggroed by these politicians who were railing against this art in the museum. Turns up with a box cutter and puts like a 10-foot long gash in the painting. And it's thoroughly defaced. And of course, it's an act of vandalism, but it is also a piece of art. That is performance art. That is commentary. You know? That is someone responding to the work of another, saying, this is simplistic. This is something I do not respect. To quote a song that I really like, you know, you'd think a lot better with a hole in your head. Like, this is a work which does not deserve to be whole. Or rather, it does deserve to be a whole. Regardless, it's the painting is slashed. And the guy gets arrested, I believe, but he's, like, celebrated by all of these conservatives who hated this piece of art for so long. Like, oh, yeah, just did what everyone wanted to, you know? But after this defacement, the painting had to be restored, right? Because that's, museums keep these things secure, and if damage happens to them, they try their best to restore it to the original condition. With asterisks in there about original condition. That's a separate topic. You know, a lot of paintings never get fully restored or anything, and they really can't be. Part of the history of it is what happened to it in the meantime. I will sidetrack myself hard talking about this. Who's Afraid of Red, Yellow, and Blue 3 goes into the restoration den. And when it comes out, no one's angry at it anymore. It's not necessarily an instant thing, but after it gets restored, everyone who looks at it is like, huh, this doesn't feel the same. Because one of the most notable things about the original Newman painting is this massive block of solid color had no visible brush strokes, and it used a custom mixed paint. It was all very exactingly done to create this oppressive feeling. When you stood in front of it, it felt like there was a wall of red falling in on you. And the name almost starts to feel like a taunt. Who's afraid of red, yellow, and blue? As this, like, monolith of color is leaning in on you, is surrounding you, creating that oppressive atmosphere. And it's like, what? Are you afraid? It's just colors. And it's a beautiful, like, you know, interpretation of all that, whatever. After the painting gets slashed and restored, everyone who sees the painting says that it lost that oppressive quality. That it didn't feel like it was as whole, as oppressive as it was before. This is a failed case of restoration, wherein the painting looks exactly the same to the untrained eye. But the methods used to get these, like, hidden brushstrokes were, you know, different. The person doing the restoration couldn't do it in the same way that Newman did. And since it wasn't, like, a standard color, they had to put in a lot of effort to attempt to restore the original, like, oh, it's a very specific, like, luster and, like, quality of the paint. And I don't remember all of the fun words that paint has, but all of the different descriptors of the qualities of a paint. They couldn't restore it just right. And as a direct result, it lost this oppressive quality. The thing that made it the painting it was. And that's what I mean when I say that guy murdered a painting. Because even though the painting is effectively visually unchanged, like, no photo can tell the difference between the two eras. The feeling of standing in front of it, the oppressive air that it had, was gone. It's like the painting, the body was restored, but it lost its soul. Which is fascinating in and of itself, obviously. The like, you know, talking about what exactly went wrong in the restoration, to make it lose that quality about it. You could debate it for years. You could make a career debating it. People do. But notably, one of the big aspects of this is, as I mentioned before, people stopped being angry at it. It stopped being, like, a huge point that conservatives could bring out as, like, oh, look at this ridiculous thing. Because it didn't inspire any emotion in people. It was a dead painting. It didn't, you know, summon anything. Everyone looked at it and was like, sure, anyone could do that, whatever. You know? It became... Somehow, it moved from being a controversial work, from being actively bad, something that people could get angry about. It moved from there to not even being able to garner that interest from the conservative audience that hated it before. They killed the painting. And now it couldn't even... You couldn't bring yourself to hate it. It fell out of the conversation. It stopped being a huge tool of, you know, these radical conservative politics. Because when it lost that oppressive air, when that, like, abstract quality of the art was lost, you couldn't go there and, like, you could look at the painting, you know? You can physically see it. It's there. It looks technically identical. But it doesn't create a feeling in you. And as such, your body doesn't, have as strong of a reaction to it. It's not like I am feeling this oppressive feeling, I don't like it, I am scared of it. I would like to lash out at this painting. And, that's obviously the intended emotion there. Who's afraid of red, yellow, and blue? You? It's just a painting. It creates an emotion in you that you don't understand, and at least in the conservative, makes you kind of angry because you don't understand it. And in the painting being slashed and losing that ephemeral quality, it was murdered. And it couldn't even inspire that anger. The same, like, abstract, like, philosophical force that I am ascribing to it, but is, much more likely just some aspect of the paint. Some aspect of, matness, reflectivity, whatever, that some art restoration guide just, couldn't quite get right. And, like, I can talk about murder, but it is a painting, It just couldn't be properly restored to its former state. And in losing whatever quality it was that created that oppressive feeling in people when you looked at it, in the painting getting slashed, in the failed attempt at restoration, this, like, conservative movement killed a painting. And I find that really fascinating. Because it's a painting that, again, I cannot stress enough. Visually speaking, most people could not tell the difference. Like, looking at Who's Afraid of Red, Yellow, and Blue 3, it's still around. You can go out and look at the painting, and it looks practically identical to the original. You cannot, like, get a visual difference. You can't tell. You can compare it to photos. It looks the same. But you don't get that same feeling from it. And this is a case that really reinforces what I mean when I say art isn't just the work itself. That artistic essence of a painting is of any work. Again, I say painting because I'm talking about a painting, but it's not limited to just paintings. This was all prompted by discussion of the Ferality fireworks show. The quality of a work in itself, what it depicts, all of that, isn't where the art begins and ends. Because there is that ephemeral quality that can, make the painting a painting, and that's stored somewhere in technique, that's stored somewhere in the materials used, that's stored somewhere in where exactly the painting is being displayed, how it's being displayed. I don't know if you still had the original Who's Afraid of Red, Yellow, and Blue, I don't think it retains that same oppressive air if you put it behind a dumpster. part of that intended experience of the art is it being displayed on this big, like, empty wall in a museum. It has to be presented this certain way in order to daunt you. And it's one of the, like, very notable cases of, like, a painting is not just the paint on the canvas, you know? A work of art is not just the medium and the technique used. It is the feelings it inspires in you. It is where it is placed. It is how it is lit. It is quality of materials used, nature of materials used, the specific interactions of those materials, and the techniques used. All of that. It's everything. It's all part of the art. Because the art isn't just the art. It's everything. Every quality of a work is part of it. And every individual experience of a work is going to be entirely different because everyone's bringing their own stuff to it. And the fact that you are bringing your own stuff to it is a very important part of the, like, you know, work of art that you are experiencing. How it's going to affect you is just as much part of the art as how fancy the techniques are that allowed the painting to be constructed in such and such way. It matters just as much that you are looking at it and you are experiencing it and you are having feelings. And as you are having feelings, you are reacting to those feelings. That matters just as much as the, like, physical qualities of a work of art. You know, this idea that reaction is going to be just as important as action in any kind of performance, in any, you know, museum piece, all of that, in any work, the presentation, the reaction is always going to be just as important as the work itself. And I think that's beautiful. It allows you to take this wider conception of things and take that and you can bring something else to it. You can add your own emotions as a part of it. You can add all of that. It lets anything be art, including the critique of art. Because what you say about a painting, what you feel when you look at a painting, what you tell other people when you criticize its quality, what exactly you choose to describe, what you choose to say, and what you choose to keep to yourself, that's also all part of the art. It's every piece of it. Anything can be art, and in fact, everything is art. Or at least it can very easily become art when you start to analyze it. And I love being the person that is capable of doing that analysis to a certain extent. even in the act of analyzing art, how that is prompted of you. Is I'm remembering back to a case about a an art professor teaches a class, does some of his own paintings. He's a conservative man, is a big believer in the art is the techniques, is the work itself and nothing else. And one question that he is known for posing to his students is putting up this image and saying, "This is a work by Pablo Picasso. Why is it good?" And isn't that an interesting question? What makes this piece good? That's a very different question from how do you feel about this piece? You are loading like a gun there. You are prompting a specific type of answer. And because of the power dynamic between a student and a teacher, wherein the teacher is less likely to be questioned by the student, they're going to try and, react to that. They're going to try and fulfill the prompt. They are going to, try and achieve the goal, get the grade. Because that's the, incentive structure of being a student. And you can make a larger point of how that is a distortion of what being a student should be. Like, philosophically speaking, it shouldn't be about getting the good points. It should be about learning things. Regardless, I'm gonna put that bit aside for now. He will go, why is this painting good? Have everyone have a discussion about it. And then he will zoom out the image to reveal that it is a section taken from his own smock, that he wears while he is painting. And it's like, aha, you thought this was something important. You thought this was something that mattered. Because I lied to you. Because I, the person who is supposed to be educating you, saw fit to lie to you, to ridicule you, to teach you this perspective on art. This, the abstraction is meaningless. You can analyze anything into a painting. But this professor has done something very interesting there. Because he didn't put up the work and say, what do you think of this? That prompts original thinking. That prompts, critique. He said, why is this good? And he gave it a false origin. You can do a lot of thinking about how, Picasso's techniques may have influenced this painting. How it could be about, something about the paints themselves. It could be something about the artist's emotional state at the time. Because all of those things influence the creation of a work of art. But it was a false origin. And when you pull it back to reveal that it is a smock, you are doing your own work of art in that moment. You are ridiculing a bunch of students, but you're ridiculing them for something that you told them to do, a conclusion that you led to, something that they wouldn't have done if you didn't lie to them. You're trying to make a point, but in doing so, have corrupted this kind of, corrupted the debate beyond recognition. And that's a wild thing to do. It's a wild exercise to ask of a class of art students. Because you're already stacking the deck with why is this good? You want a particular response. And you are trying to ensure that you get that response. If you asked, what do you feel about this painting? Would you have gotten so many people trying to say that it's good? They very well could agree with you, that this impressionistic form is, useless. It's abstract and thus, something that provides no value to society or whatever the conservative line of reasoning on that is. This is looking like the end here. But that analysis is never provided because you've corrupted things at the source. Outside of false origin, you have asked the students, why is this good? Not, is this good? Or what does it make you feel? You haven't asked for analysis. You have given an assignment and are very clearly expecting a certain answer. And in those power dynamics I mentioned earlier, they're going to try and satisfy that. I just think it's such a fascinating thing. It's a brilliant piece of performance art showing off the conservative mentality on a surface level, giving off that impression that they are intending to give. That this abstract art is worthless, that it is just the impressionistic forms here are just smears on a canvas. But if you think about it a little harder, it's a conclusion. You are taking the things that these students have said as evidence of your point. But they never would have said it if the circumstances were different, if even just you asked a different question. In order to get to this worldview, to this position where you have stacked everything, like you've stacked a lot of things in this deck here, and you're acting like it's proving your point when it goes exactly the way you wanted it to. But you can't be sure that it would have done that if you hadn't. Because like I mentioned earlier, maybe the students would have agreed with you. You don't know. You've taken some level of agency out of the equation by invoking your authority as a teacher. And, you're presenting it dishonestly. You could present your smock in its original form as a work of art and say, okay, what does this make you feel? What does this tell you? And you can analyze the different colors on the smock. You can analyze the forms that, erupt from it, the coincidental nature of that. You can trace things out with your mind, and it's like, ooh, that looks a bit like a dog. I like that. Or you can look into the materials being used on the smock and say, oh, this seems like an artist who is familiar with this painting or is using this technique. You can look at this for evidence of a life. You can say, oh, whoever's smock this is seems to get like really anxious. They have a tendency of picking at the seams over here. But you may also be assuming, because it could just be they're clumsy. They run into things a lot. Or there is something wrong with their studio that results in that specific area getting caught. Maybe there's a wonky hook. That is. It's a really interesting thing to present. It could prompt a lot of discussion. You're treating this like it has no artistic value. But the artistic value comes in looking at a piece of art critically. You determine the value of a piece of art by giving it your time to, do the extra research, to do the analysis, to do everything. The artistic value is not just stored in the intentionality of the author, but it very much is helped by that. You didn't need to lie to get those students to analyze this. And they might have agreed with you. It's your dirty smock. It doesn't hold any more value than that. Or you might have had your views challenged. But that's just one person's take. A humble artist, I say, the least humble person in the world about my art. To insist that anything is not art is to make a statement that is in itself performative. To declare that something is not art is an artistic statement. It is a thing that you can invoke, and it prompts feelings in the people who see it. It uses whatever work you're critiquing as a base. It triggers further interpretation and analysis. I think that anything can be art as long as you are willing to analyze it. As long as you are willing to give it time, to give it value, to give it space. To dedicate something to it and say, okay, you are art now. You get to be art. What do you mean? You end up asking the piece a lot of questions and trying to figure out deeper meanings, whether or not they were exactly intended by the author there. And that means that the work itself is art. Your analysis is art. Your reaction to the work is art. All of it. It's all something beautiful as long as you are willing to give it the time. To give it the space, to give it the thought. It's all art. It's all beautiful. Sorry, Ferality does this to me. The fireworks show does this to me. I don't know why I apologize. It's something beautiful. Right. Well, dark clouds gather overhead as we come to the ending of yet another Daily Peak. And I would like to say, thanks to everybody who tuned in, whether that is now or after the fact. I appreciate all of your viewership, and I will see all of you guys next time. Bye. Oh, I'm about to hit an hour, by the way. I have a Ko-Fi if you like what I do. Check it out. I'm gonna walk over and close my window while I wait for the bot to spit out the Ko-Fi message, and you guys can see the Ko-Fi message and contribute if you want. There's definitely a storm coming. Robots, robots, it's almost been an hour. Robots, tell the people to give me money. Alright, I'm unwilling to wait any longer. You can find it in previous episodes. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.